Now, there has been a lot of political bickering that has been taking place ever since the manifesto of the Congress was released and a big announcement made that they are going to be doing a wealth redistribution survey if they were to come to power. There has already been a lot of talk and fears that have been questioned with regards to the caste census. That has also been one of the key promises that the Congress has made if it were to come to power in 2024. Now, while we talk about the situation which appears to be completely political because of the barbs that have been exchanged by our politicians, there is also an underlining point that needs to be made which impacts the 140 crore people of our country. If there were a wealth redistribution to take place in our country, how is it going to impact the individuals, organizations, entrepreneurs, industries, businesses, and our economy? So let's start this conversation on the telecast with me, Dr. Jaijit Bhattacharya. My first question about how do you think this redistribution of wealth of the citizens impact individuals and in turn our economy?
So, the Congress manifesto is not really clear in terms of how they intend to do the wealth redistribution. So let's go back to history and see how wealth redistribution has happened. So one way is the Robin Hood way. You snatch money away from those who have wealth. That can be done by putting in, let's say, an inheritance tax or saying that inheritance is not allowed. So therefore, when you pass away, your wealth that you have accumulated does not go to your children. They will simply go back to the state, and then state will deem it fit in terms of how they will give it to those that they consider to be poor. And we know how that mechanism works. In fact, it was Rajiv Gandhi himself who said for every 1 rupee sent by the government, only 17 paisa used to reach. It'll be clearly a repetition of that will happen, and that is what has happened globally.
Okay.
It could also be significant increase in taxes to the level that it was in the 60s and 70s, where it reached to 90% taxes, which means that you also break the back of those who have the ability to set up the next set of industries. It is important for capital accumulation to happen, and without that, we will not be able to set up the next generation of industries, and therefore it's going to be extremely debilitating for the economy.
Do you think we are also risking at losing out on the most enterprising citizens who would rather seek opportunities in other countries, other economies?
Absolutely, yes. It's not just seeking opportunities in other countries. It's also setting up, looking at the opportunities within the country. So who will look at the opportunities within the country? The Indian citizens won't, because they will be under these draconian regulations where they will have, huge amount of taxation. They will have to forcefully take up employees who are not the right set of employees. So they will not be able to set up the organization that can compete. So what will happen is foreign entities will start jumping in, because they will keep a skeleton staff. They will do all the tick marks in India and keep anyone that the government wants them to keep, and then take up the market. And obviously, as you rightly said, what will happen is Indian citizens will start moving out in very, very large numbers. We have seen that happening earlier, and we can see a repeat of that. In fact, it was the builders who had actually said that they don't see much of an opportunity in India. That was about 10, 15 years back. And they said most of their investments are outside of India. And that's exactly what they did in non-ferrous metals. Most of their investments was outside of India.
And do you think the wealth redistribution that happens and these caste-based quotas, are they adversely going to impact meritocracy in our country?
I mean, of course, yes, it goes without saying. It is defined in the way it's being put in, that it is based on your birth that you will get the right to a job or right to a livelihood. If you are born in the wrong caste, then your livelihood is going to be taken away forever, because we have seen such policies kept in place for over 75 years. And we have seen that that what the manifesto says is that the quotas will be now increased from 50% to a higher number. That'll be through regulation. So the Supreme Court and the Indian judicial system cannot intervene in that because that's what the manifesto says, which essentially means that based on where and how you are born, you will be discriminated. You'll have no opportunity left. You will not be able to set up industry. You will not be able to work. You will not get an employment, will not get a job, irrespective of what your qualifications are. That is patently incorrect, and which basically means that there is no space for meritocracy. And that's what a set of leaders in our country is promoting, which is significantly not acceptable.
Okay, so according to you, can there be welfare and affirmative action approach that can be brought about, that is needed in our country, that both ensures our GDP growth is at its optimum, but at the same time is also serving the poor of the country?
That's where we already are, isn't it? Because there is a direct benefit transfer happening with no loss. When 1 rupee is being sent out, the entire 1 rupee is being reached and received by the recipient without the state saying, I know what needs to be done and I know better than you. It is simply the money being sent directly. So the state already has the data and the information to a fairly large extent. Again, there are errors that will always happen. But we are moving towards that direction where the most vulnerable sections of the society are being protected. So the creamy layers are getting excluded. And that's what we want. Now, if somebody truly wants equality to be in the country, it starts with equality of education. Because it is not minerals and resources which brings in money, it is the knowledge which brings in money. And therefore, the whole focus of anyone, any leader or politician who wants to have equality in this country would be to bring in significant investments for the equality in education. And that's what's going to bring in the equality.
Okay.
But in the same note, we say there will be right to cheat and we'll be promoting you based on how you were born. That is very, very counterproductive. That's
Okay.
not going to take us to the next, to become a superpower at all.
Okay. I also have with me Major General Sudhakar ji. Now, the very concept of welfare state versus communism. Now, can there be a differentiation that can be made on it?
Megha, yes, a very distinct difference. Complementing the previous co-panelist, Dr. Bhattacharya, he made a very significant articulation and compliments to him. For a country like India with multi-party democracy, there are differences only which are visible when you compare it with against the communism. Look at the way China has done, taking money out of the technical behemoths and going in for a common prosperity, concept of common prosperity, which has miserably failed. It's not going to work that way. And I tend to agree and endorse what the doctor has said, that knowledge is the focal point. And today, why is being done what it is being done by the present dispensation? There is a larger objective which the present dispensation is working towards too. And that larger objective is the Uniform Civil Code. Mandal Commission by no means, I don't want to actually get into a controversial issue. You see, we need to come to a stage wherein the meritocracy has to be given highest of importance and top priority. That can happen provided we teach a person how to catch a fish. Don't catch fish and keep giving it to him based on some prehistoric era of divisions. Today in India, we have 5,000 primary castes, 25,000 sub castes based on the occupation. How are you going to do ensure equality? The biggest challenge in a communist country today is the inequality, that is China. They have a gen concept, which actually because of this inequality in China, the whole country is becoming extremely vulnerable and may collapse in foreseeable future. So let's not try out the steps which the communist country does. Let's apply ourselves in a pragmatic manner, which the present government is doing. Do not focus too much onto the caste system.
Okay.
Come on to. I think the Prime Minister has made a very good articulation. There are two castes, rich and the poor. He has summed up the complexity of our socioeconomic fault line into two issues, the rich and the poor. Now find a solution. Back to you, Megha.
Also, a question that I'm asking the rest of the panelists as well, is caste census and wealth redistribution survey a good idea? And if according to you it is not, why is it not? And do we have an alternative?
Well, if this question is meant for me, Megha, I would say by no means is it an ideal kind of a thing or non-ideal. It is not an option. India is looking at a time era of 2047 to be a global power. This is for the first time we as a nation have been able to derive or evolve a long-term perspective plan. I would recommend that we should go in for a time spectrum of almost about 100 odd years. Have that time spectrum and have a goal setting or objective identified. And by no means caste system is going to take us anywhere. And mind you, when I'm talking from the west coast of America here, Pacific coast, I'm very mindful of the fact that the only way India can go ahead is to enforce and implement UCC. Whatever my understanding, limited understanding I have about the theme that the coordinator has shared with me, is that the present dispensation is going in the right direction to achieve uniform civil code at the earliest by eradicating the very concept of casteism, by eradicating the different social fault lines and achieving a target of equality at the earliest in a democratic, multi-party democratic system like ours. Back to you, Megha.
Okay, all right. I'm going to quickly also invite on the telecast with me Sharad Kohli. Sharad, the same question to you. How does redistribution of income, of wealth, impact individuals, organizations and the economy on a large scale?
Well, in one word, Megha, good evening to you first of all, good evening to all my panelists and of course the dear NewsX viewers. In one word, this is catastrophic. You know, what are you trying to do? You're trying to be a Robin Hood. You want to snatch away wealth from people. So what will happen? What is going to happen ultimately? And people are going to run away from this country. Nobody would like to stay because you can't prosper in this country for sure. Can you prosper in this country? Because the moment you start getting prosperity, anywhere near prosperity, you know that there's a cap on it and somebody is going to take it away. So I have a proposal here. I'm a apolitical person, but from where this originated, I saw Mr. Rahul Gandhi's declaration on the portal as 22 crores his net worth. I have prepared Megha a list of 100 people to whom he can distribute and it comes to 22 lakhs each. I have prepared a list of very poor people from the villages. So let him take the lead. I mean, if he's proposing it, you know, you have to do something to make others do it. So I have a list of 100 people. They come from remote villages in Odisha, in West Bengal, in Bihar, in Jharkhand, in Uttar Pradesh. Let charity begin at home, as they say. There's a very popular saying, let charity, so let him distribute. Economically speaking, it's a terrible idea. Okay. We're going back to Lenin and Stalin area. It cannot happen in this era. It is impossible to do, first of all. I know these kind of things are not going to work, first of all. He's talking of a caste survey, fine. Somebody like Bihar can do it. But this survey at a national level is not possible. It is going to be divisive. It is going to lead to a social unrest also. I'm giving that as a warning. You know, this is going to lead as a social unrest. And in our country, if somebody comes from an OBC, if somebody comes from a scheduled caste or a scheduled tribe and is a rich man, what do you do with that person? So will that person be left as it is? Absolutely terrible idea. There are various ways, Megha, of handling this problem at policy level, at fiscal level. You can have a more progressive taxation system. You can have an indirect regressive tax system modified, moderated, so that the rich and poor don't pay similar kind of tax on similar kind of item. You need to, as Dr. Bhattacharya rightly said, upgrade your education. Poor child from the village studies in a chappad school, and there is a child from the town who studies in an air-conditioned school. The opportunities are different when they come out of the school. So it's obviously going to lead to inequality. Okay. So the problem is you solve the problem. If there is fire underneath a tawa, you know, on which we cook roti, you want to cool the tawa, you keep throwing water on it, it will again get hot. The best way is to remove the flame from underneath. You need to address the root of the problem. Okay. You need to bring in social security. There are so many things which can be done. It's an absolutely catastrophic idea, if you ask me.
Talking about the situation as it stands today, there was the Mandal Commission that was brought into force. It saw a huge amount of resistance. There were nationwide protests, but nothing really happened of it. There are already caste-based quotas that are implemented across the country in states, when it comes to education, when it comes to jobs, when it comes to sports quotas. There was the recent 33% women's reservation in the parliament as well. Now, how do we make a differentiation? Which is a good quota, which is a bad quota? How do we carry forward in terms of bringing about socio-economic reforms?
Well, I think, see, quotas in a limited way, the way they prevail today, even the current government has embraced quotas, has embraced reservation. It's not that the current government has run away from reservations, or, where people are genuinely not getting opportunities to reach the top. You can have certain kind of reservation. You spoke of a very important point, which is gender discrimination. Only 23% of the women in this country, Megha, very important data I'm revealing, I don't know, I'm sure some people must be aware, are connected with the mainline economic activity. Well, this number ideally should be 50% at least, So I think if we try and bring women to the mainstream, this inequality of income and wealth can sharply be removed. Then another very important aspect, Megha, corruption. The corruption leads to inequality. People who got muscle power of money, they buy out contracts, they buy out businesses, they buy out orders, they buy out government positions, they buy out corporate positions also. You'll be surprised to know. Now, such people, because of corruption, are able to outshine the people who do not have money. So if Congress was so fond of removing inequality, then the first thing which it should have done is it should have fought corruption. Where corruption still prevailed. While corruption prevailed, I'm sorry to say, I don't mean to have a bias, but there was more corruption until 2014 than as compared to now. I don't say that corruption has been eradicated completely, but there was more corruption at that time. So education, social security, bringing up the MSMEs, land reforms can be done, where a certain amount of curtailment on the land holding, where there are farmers who are holding hundreds and hundreds of acres of land, and there are farmers who do not have any piece of land. Some kind of rationalization of land holding can be done. Some kind of rationalization of skill development can be done. Bring in skill. Why? See, what gets in, I'm an economist and a finance expert, I can tell you, how does one become rich? The best, and there is a saying in Hindi, Megha, Maya ko Maya mile, kar lambe haath. You must have heard of this. It says if you have certain degree of wealth with you, you can become wealthier. The problem is that people are not able to save. So you should come out with ideas on how people can save, curtail inflation. Let people save, they can build wealth, their generation can pass on the wealth to others. But you start snatching wealth. I think this is, Robin Hood was still given some kind of respect. But in the current scenario, this will be a bad Robin Hood to play, Megha. Over to you.
Okay. Also then, Sharad, we were talking about caste quotas that are still prevalent in our country, and the opinion is divisive as to how long should these caste quotas prevail. Should there be a time limit of 50 years, 75 years? How many years till the affirmative action is taken and the downtrodden are brought to the same level playing field as the other communities in our country? Similarly, the question about, you talk about 33% reservation for women. How do we decide which are these areas, which are these communities, which are these people who require the effort and the affirmative action so that the government can make policies to provide them?
Very pertinent question, Megha. That how long should the quotas survive? How far should the quotas go? My opinion is, I agree. The fact which Sudharji also agreed, I know what the Prime Minister said, there should be only two castes, rich and poor. I know lots of backward classes, people who belong to the backward classes, but who are, financially speaking, they are very, very wealthy. So, the differentiation should not be on the basis of caste, ideally speaking. Although I said that before, that to a certain extent, quotas can be done to make sure that these people get limited opportunities going forward. But at the end of the day, your goal is to make sure that they are economically at a level playing field. That's our ultimate goal. So therefore, categorizing them into rich and poor is the right way to do, irrespective of the caste, Megha. I think this caste quota should only be there till economic equality goal is achieved. Once economic equality goal is achieved, the quota should be done away with. There should be no caste, no Brahmins, no Vaishya, no Shudra. Why should there be caste system? Look at what caste system did, historically speaking, in our country. I'm sure you've studied history as well, Megha.
Right. All right. I also have with me Group Captain V.N. Jha. Let me quickly invite him into the discussion as well. And again, what is your opinion? When the Congress comes out and makes this announcement that if it were to come to power, there is going to be redistribution of wealth that will take place. There is also a promise that has been made that there is going to be caste census. Is this detrimental to our society, to the individuals, to the citizens of our country, or do you see it as an affirmative action for those who are underprivileged, who are downtrodden, who have not gotten the opportunities thus far?
Well, Megha, thank you very much for inviting. It's very unfortunate that we are sitting here all trying to dissect the dialect of a politically naive person who has uttered some words. If Indian democracy permits all this sort of dialect, I feel somewhere either it is too permissive or it is incompetent. Otherwise, such people, should have been behind the bars if they have a tendency to, condemn our democracy, signing an MOU with the CCP for keeping India submissive, ordering Indian soldiers killing, the Kashmiri civilians post 370 abrogation, saying that Indian soldiers are getting beaten off by the Chinese in Tawang. So many COS, Chief of Air Staff, is a Sadka Gunda, tarnishing Indian image and democracy abroad. All these sorts of things have been happening, and the government of the day has been tolerating it. This is rather too far. But however, look, I essentially belong to a defense background, but I also happen to be, the chief editor of a magazine for the last about 6 years or so. And I keep on discussing, I keep on highlighting the problems. These sort of politically naive who have been boosted up as a party president or the ultimate person of having the hierarchy, leading the hierarchy. So it's unfortunate that it is all too happening. And I totally agree with Mr. Kohli. Look, what is this narrative going to lead to? The moment you bring the caste factor in the foreground for anything, because what we have heard Lalu Yadav earlier or his son earlier, that the numbers that you have, you will have your say in the democracy. That means you will have that means of services or the jobs or the backings or say. All these things will be decided as per your number. Then what happens? Right now, the Indian democracy is guided by Supreme Court's directive, which is keeping the fundamental rights above everything. And the fundamental right permits the merit of the nation to be in the forefront. That is how 51% of the reservations were there. 49 reservations were not going to be permitted beyond 49%. So this is how all these were being kept. But now, when all these narratives are being built up, then obviously somewhere government of the day may be on the back foot for one reason or the other. Right now elections are going on, so you need the votes of maybe minority or maybe some particular caste. In Bihar, I have grown up. We used to vote in our childhood. In childhood, I'm saying when I was just about 11 years or so, I had a voting right there. It's unfortunate. I didn't know whether I was eligible or not, but then I was a voter. And we used to vote for a caste person. Okay, so-and-so is from so-and-so caste. It is your caste. You vote for this. We have gone through it, but gone are the days.
Yes.
Today,
are they really gone? Because when, the political parties have this lure of giving caste quotas, and they end up, this is perhaps only for the vote bank politics that they also play. And also our electoral politics works this way. If there is a Jat community that is dominant in a particular area or a particular constituency, it is a Jat leader that is put up to be fielded against another political party from that place. This is to say then, if there is a Jat leader, a Jat member of the parliament or a Jat MLA, he is going to work particularly for the welfare of that community. And keeping in mind what is going to happen to the other communities who are also having the right to get equal opportunities, to get welfare schemes and welfare projects that are aimed at them?
Well, you have raised a very pertinent question. Has it gone? No, it has not gone. But it is becoming blurred. That the caste line on which we used to vote, that is now getting blurred. Otherwise, Modi 2.0 wouldn't have come, because Modi per se didn't have the numbers. So obviously, people from other castes, other religions, other sects, they all have voted for Modi for his performance from 2014 to 2019, and that is how Modi 2.0 came. And in case, if that logic goes through, there is absolutely no problem Modi 3.0 coming up there. But it has not gone absolutely. It is just that line is just blurring up. But one thing, Megha, in today's India, beware of a 26-headed Ravana. This 26-headed Ravana has got the heads, which are chores, which are thugs, which are scamsters, which are extortionists, radicals, Hindu abusers, who try to set narratives with all those 26 mouth. And when the 26 mouth keep on repeating the same word, the knave people, the Aam Aadmi, they started getting the doubt. Are they right? Are they right? No, they are not right. But they are just serving out to be a political narrative by repeating the words. And that is how unfortunate it is that it is there in the current times of the electoral times.
Okay.
See, look, this all will continue happening. It has been happening in the past. It will continue happening in the future. But I'm glad it is getting narrowed down. That narrative is getting narrowed down. People have started understanding the game plan of this 26-headed Ravana, and I'm sure they will come out of it.
Okay.
Megha.
I have with me Rahul Ishwar. Rahul, quickly a comment from you. First of all, your opinion of the announcement, the promise that has been made by the Congress about wealth redistribution and the caste census that is going to be done if the Congress were to come to power. Does this impact our economy, the citizens of our country, positively?
Two submissions. First of all, whenever we study politics, not only in India, anywhere around the world, we study it as left and right. The right-wing spectrum gives more importance to identity, culture, and the left gives more importance to economics, livelihood kind of issues. In US, if you take, the Republican Party occupies the center to the center-right position. The Democratic occupies the center to center-left position. In Indian context, BJP occupies that center to center-right position, and Congress is the center to center-left, with CPM and CPIM be the more left. Rahul Gandhi's game plan or strategy, whether it is right or wrong, it is up to people to decide, but has always been to appeal to the backward communities, minorities, Dalits, and raise an argument that they are given unfair representation, which I believe is not a fair point from him. But having said that, that is the position he is taking. That means he says caste survey should be there. He says the Hindu unity plank of BJP should be defeated by something like a caste identity plank, which we used to call in 90s Mandal versus Kamandal. When the Mandal politics is coming, BJP will come with a Kamandal politics, or the Kamandal politics is coming, the left or the center left will come with a Mandal politics. So this is the equation that he is trying to bring up. I don't think this is good for India, because people like Mahatma Gandhi really played on their life and brought something like Pune Pact to the effect, where the father of the nation proudly said, I will die, but I will never let Hindus be divided. And that is how India's reservation came in, Pune Pact came in, the whole genesis came in. Mahatma Gandhi, went on for fast in the Pune Yerwada jail, where he categorically said, the Hindu community shouldn't be divided, or the already present division should not be accentuated, because it will only lead to the collapse. So we shouldn't be promoting casteism. Yes, fair share to all castes should be given. Okay. But at the same point of time, jitni abadi utni hak kind of dangerous slogans shouldn't be encouraged, because at the end of the day, we are Indians first, belong to any caste, community or other things are second.
Yeah. So even though the aim of the government of the day needs to be that it needs to shun casteism, it needs to shun caste quotas, but we continue to see that caste quotas exist for the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, for the OBCs, for the Dalits. Even for women, there is 33% reservation. How do we make a decision? And who makes the decision? What percentage of the quota is to be provided to which community, which segment, in which category, and for how long?
Informed decisions like this in civil society, media, courts, policy makers can decide it. please understand, already the forward community, I belong to a Brahmin community. The forward community is also getting 10% for our economically backward people. So there is a fair share that is already being given. It is time we shouldn't forward quotas, because that is a strategy used by many people to divide Hindu India in a larger sense. Yes, there are some issues, there are some debates that's happening, but please remember the genesis, the core idea of quota and reservation was Hindu unity back in 1932 by Mahatma Gandhi, where he requested Ambedkar to sign the Pune Pact, which in effect allowed reservation. So it was something like a plank for uniting Hindu community with reservation, with our backward community also needing help. That's the reason why some kind of equitable distribution should always be there. The blind economic equality argument of the communist, the Leninist, the Maoist may not apply, but equity is an idea that we are increasingly embracing. So from the idea of equality, we have transformed into the idea of equity, where we should be assisting people of all communities, including our Muslim brothers, including our Dalit brothers and sisters, or including every person. So we should have the idea of equity, and Modi ji is rightly doing so, because he has given that economic reservation to the forward caste communities, giving 10%. It was against the spirit of the Supreme Court verdict, but he boldly took that step, and even Supreme Court at last conceded or agreed to that aspect. So we need such kind of positive affirmative action, not at the cost of anyone, because we need to be inclusive.
Okay, all right. So, what kind of welfare and affirmative actions can be taken in India that are not going to then hamper our growth rate,
Correct.
and at the same time ensure that the poor are served?
Exactly. Growth and justice should be balanced. We need economic growth. Only if we have wealth, we can distribute. So we need growth with one hand, and with the other hand, we need access and opportunity. I would use the word distribution for sure, but along with growth, we should have access, we should have opportunity, and some sort of distribution too, of the resources, because there are many sections of the people who are backward. We need to assist them. That's our patriotic duty. That's the reason why Swami Vivekananda used to say, if a person is crying hungry on the street, I will call you a traitor if you are not going to support him. So economic, educational, social kind of thing should definitely be there. But as you rightly said, it's a very tricky balance that we need to have. Growth plus justice. And growth plus justice is the right way ahead. You have to balance these priorities, and any person who can balance these priorities can lead forward. And I believe Modi ji is doing a right job of taking India forward with that balance.
But then, also to getting to understand from you, why does it become an important platform for political parties to come up and make these sweeping announcements during the time of elections?
If I can be blunt and honest, our right-wingers will say 80 versus 20, implying that 80 Hindu versus 20 Muslims. So the left-wingers will say 85 versus 55, implying 85 backward community, Dalit and all versus the 15% forward caste. At the end of the day, we Indians, beyond a point, should say 100 versus 0, where we want equitable growth for all. We want inclusion of all. We want that Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas kind of a paradigm, because we are the largest Hindu majority nation in the world. We are the largest Muslim minority nation in the world. We have the most caste diverse nation in the world. We have common icons. So we need that unity. So we need to find an equation, a formula, a balance, some kind of a matrix where all these things can be included. Sabka Saath will be there. And to be honest, with due respect to Rahul Gandhi, he speaks more like a SFI kind of a guy. I mean, I don't intend to have any insult to it, but he speaks more like a college communist guy who is too ideal, who brings out many ideas which won't work on ground. I mean, the great-grandson of Nehruji shouldn't be speaking like that, or the grandson of Indiraji shouldn't be speaking like that. He should himself position to be a more center-left kind of a person. But, too radical ideas doesn't suit a party like, grand old party like Congress.
Okay, all right. Quickly, I have with me Major General Sudhakar ji. You want to quickly make a word, make a comment before I wrap this up?
Megha, wanted to compliment you and the co-panelists for a wonderful discourse we have had so far in the NewsX. Compliments to each and every one of you. But I wish to share two important points. I am an Indo-China expert. I have done great depth of study. I am sitting here in America. I have been in touch with almost all the leading think tanks dealing with China. China has adopted a strategy. It has become hyperactive post-abrogation of Article 370 in India. That is 5th August 2019. The name of that organization is well known to most of us. is United Front Works Department. Chaolai is to call it in Chinese interpretation or magic weapon. What does it do? It does three primary things. One is political manipulation. Second is penetrating into the minds or the psyche of the elite population of democracies like India, changing the narrative, which is actually we are witnessing. And third and most important thing is to penetrate into the media without you, me, and the panelists realizing, the editorial, the expertise, they are biased, they're prejudiced in such a, subverted in such a manner that the narrative starts building up in favor of China. It's happening in a big way. We should be mindful of it.
Okay.
What? I don't
Okay, all
want being
right.
a military man. But
Okay.
last point.
Akshay, I'm out of time. I'll get you
Only
back
one
on the
line,
telecast
only
on
one
another
line.
day.
We
But
need to
fair
focus
enough.
on
At this point of time, the domestic politics, elections on the anvil. There are political parties who are going to take leverage of the fact, and also try to project themselves as the harbingers, as the messiahs of the minorities in the country. This is exactly what the announcement that has been made by the Congress. This is exactly why the Prime Minister has responded in the way that he has in countering the Congress and the X-ray survey that Rahul Gandhi has proposed. How does this play out? It remains to be seen when the election results come out.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.